Welcome to Resource on the Go, a podcast from the National Sexual Violence Resource Center on understanding, responding to, and preventing sexual abuse and assault. I am Laura Palumbo, and I'm Communications Director at NSVRC. And today's episode, we're discussing the 25th anniversary of NSVRC's National Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign and a cool interactive opportunity that we've created for folks to share their reflections on this 25th year of SAAM with leaving us a voicemail. I am joined by Mo Lewis. Hi, Mo.
Hi, thanks for having me on this podcast with you.
Yes. So I think for starters, we should just share a little bit more about Sexual Assault Awareness Month in case there's anyone listening who is learning about it for the first time. So we fondly call Sexual Assault Awareness Month by the acronym SAM, and it is observed every year in the month of April. Starting way back in 2001, NSVRC hosted our first National Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign. There were SAM initiatives and activities that had been happening before that point, but it was actually something that those folks who were putting those things together, who were hosting SAM weeks and days, actually wanted there to be some national coordination around the activities that were going on in that month so that they could be more impactful. So that's what led NSVRC to hosting our first Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign way back when. And this year, April 2026, is the 25th year of our Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
It's hard to
Um,
believe it's been that long.
yes. And this year's theme is really leaning into that kind of celebration of 25 years with the message of 25 years stronger, looking back, moving forward. And the whole goal of the campaign is really honoring the history and growth of the movement while reaffirming our commitment to continuing to grow so we can create a safer future for all. And each year, as a part of NSVRC's National Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign, we create a number of free resources that folks can use to participate in SAM that they can share on social media or use in programming such as in-person events. And so NSVRC actually, SAM is one of our busiest times of year in terms of when folks are contacting our organization for support and resources and using our website. So this is a big time for us.
Yeah, I love that people are using the SAM themes every year to help shape their work. I remember when I was working at a local center, always being so excited about what was coming out. And one of the ones I remember was in 2012. You'll probably remember this, Laura. You had a theme that was talking about how it's time to talk. And you made some videos where coworkers that we still have now had these videos about like, hey, it's time. Lots of clocks in the videos, but just talking about how it's time to talk about this issue.
Yeah, that was very early on in my time at NSVRC, and
Hmm.
I actually was in the role of leading our SAM campaigns at that time, or I might not have even been in that role yet. But all that to say is it's a definite throwback, but it was such a cool theme because it was really something that continues to be like true for SAM today is it's a time where people want to start these conversations in their community. They feel like
Hmm.
people in their community need an entry point to talking about the issues of sexual abuse, assault, and harassment, to talking about prevention, and SAM being this sort of widely observed awareness month kind of creates that opportunity for folks.
Yeah, I did not realize before starting working at NSVRC just how many people come into this field through SAM, through Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And that was really cool to hear about. It kind of kind of gave me a new appreciation for having this specific set of time that we're focused on this issue that, yeah, I just didn't know before.
hmm I don't know if I've shared this with you before, Mo, but I actually got my start in the field with a SAM event that I attended as a college student
What?
where someone from NSVRC was speaking. So it was would be many years after that before I actually started working in the movement. But it is definitely what SAM is kind of where I first learned that there were folks that were working to respond to and prevent sexual abuse and assault.
That's so cool. I did not know that.
So with this 25 years milestone being a big deal for us, we thought it would be fun to look back ourselves a little bit about over about how much has changed over the past 25 years. So Mo, do you remember what you were doing 25 years ago?
Yes. And it's so funny because we were talking about this before, and I think we have pretty different experiences of what we were doing 25 years ago. So, 25 years ago, I was working at Starbucks, which was a lot, still a big company, but
Oh,
smaller than it is now.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and I was training to be a training specialist. I actually don't know if I'm saying that the right way. I was working at Starbucks. I was training to be a trainer, training baristas about coffee and its origins and how to make it and how to identify the scents and the flavors and all of that. And I just remember going up to Seattle for this interview and we had to create a little mini presentation. And I decided to make a little apothecary box that had different ingredients in it. One was lavender, I think one was little slices of lemon. There were some herbs, mushrooms, chocolate, that sort of thing that I was using to help people connect to the flavors that are in coffee by smelling the little things that were in my apothecary box. So, yeah, 25 years ago, I was doing a lot of training still, um,
Uh-huh.
but really with that coffee focus. Yeah.
Well, that is just mind-blowing because I think that I didn't know that you were a former employee of Starbucks and I imagine so you have an above average knowledge of things related to caffeine and coffee and tea. So that's really cool. But
I
it's
think it's a prerequisite in this area if you live in the Pacific Northwest or like near Seattle. Like probably 3 out of 4 people who I know at some point in their younger days worked for Starbucks.
very cool. And so it's also fun to hear that in that role, so different from what you do now, you were still helping to teach others to learn skills that they could then practice and teach, and that you were helping people to make connections with like finding kind of creative ways to help people make connections. I think that's pretty true to what you do now as NSVRC's prevention coordinator as well.
Yeah, fewer apothecary boxes, but so Laura, what were you doing 25 years ago?
Uh-huh. I don't remember too many specifics, but I do believe at this point I was a either wrapping up my time in middle school or just in my first year of high school. And I remember that we would listen to like top 40s, is that top 40s hits on the radio? And I remember that I don't think I had a phone at that time yet. Like, I think that it was still pretty coveted to be someone who had a phone. And if you had a phone, it definitely wasn't a smartphone. It was definitely the type of phone where you would have to click, the letter, or you'd have to click the number one 3 times to get to the letter C. So a very different time in terms of technology.
So different. You're right.
Yeah. But it's kind of funny because I feel like that's a big theme right now in terms of like popular culture is everybody's talking about going back to things that are analog. And as we were working on planning our content for this 25th anniversary of our Sexual Assault Awareness Month campaign, we had this cool idea, and I think actually I will say you had this cool idea. We wanted to find a way for folks to share reflections and to be able to highlight the insights and reflections on the past, as well as the hopes of the future of people outside of NSVRC, because we know that there are so many folks working in communities all across US and the world that are a part of this movement. And so we kind of had an idea of a way for folks to do that, but it was a little retro. Can you tell us a little bit of how we got to that idea, Mel?
Yeah, I love the fact that you're bringing up this analog stuff. My partner was telling me that she saw a TikTok video about someone unpacking their analog bag, and inside
Oh,
their analog bag, they had an analog book and an analog tablet, which was a notepad and a pen. It was it was so funny. But
we're so hip.
yeah, very, very hip, like just ahead of the times. But there's so, I mean, gosh, so many people have been involved in this work. And if you think about people who are still in this field or people who started it and are not involved anymore, and just the way that technology has changed and this work has changed, and even like the way we talk about this topic has changed. I just thought it would be so cool if people could call in. You know, like on the radio, people would call in and want to dedicate a song to someone. I was thinking having something like that would be really fun for Sam. Just getting to hear directly from the people in this movement about what are their memories, what's a thing that they want to share, what's a change that they have really liked seeing, or a way that their work has really impacted the community around them. It just seems fun. Also, I love the idea of just getting to hear from people and share that back, hopefully, so that we can all hear the stories.
Yes, I have a lot of very special memories of like, if the radio had some sort of like contest, and if you were the ninth caller, maybe you would win concert tickets, or there would be a trivia question, or calling to dedicate a song, or calling, I feel like this happens a lot in various forms online now, but like calling to seek the advice from someone about,
Mm.
your life choices. So we've kind of given folks a way to recreate that type of experience, but sharing their reflections on the change that has happened in the past 25 years as those who've been working to increase awareness of the issues of sexual abuse, assault, and harassment, as well as those who've been working to help our communities become safer and more respectful places for folks to be able to look back and for folks to be able to look forward. Because I think that was another thing we were thinking about too, was that like there's so much ahead of our work. Like there has been a lot of progress in the past 25 years, but also really feeling like when we look ahead, that that's an opportunity for a lot of hope and vision, and also for, a new generation of folks to be shaping this work.
Hmm. Yeah, I really love thinking about it. There's something so cool about being in a field for long enough to see the changes. Like when I think about things like how we talk about consent changing over the last 25 years, or not even 25 years. I started in this field in 2007, and we were talking about consent as like consent is sexy. And that was the way that people were really talking about the subject and getting intrigued by it. And over time, that has changed so much. Like it moved to this enthusiastic consent, and now it's less about enthusiasm and more about being like fully informed and just all the different nuances of how people are talking about this subject, which is, the same information about consent, but just the way that it is resonating with people is so different, and it's evolving too, because we know that it's not just sexy to have consent, but it's mandatory. And you want consent to be enthusiastic, but maybe if someone is not like an enthusiastic person in general, maybe the way that they would give consent is in a different manner or in like a fully informed sort of way. So, yeah, I just think that it is so cool that we're going to get to hear from so many people about how they've experienced working in this field and all of these topics and the ways that we've been helping each other and advocating and really changing our communities.
Yeah, that conversation, or that looking back at how the conversation around consent has evolved is a really cool example. I think about how words that, like, when I was first starting out in the movement, like, had never heard anyone talk about rape culture before, and looking that up and really only seeing it in places that were like in, feminist blogs and academic contests, and to see kind of how it went from terminology that was not as widely known to something that it's still complex terminology, but it's something that so many more people have context to know what we mean when we're talking about the culture, the values, the beliefs, the norms that contribute to prevalence of sexual assault. And so I think those opportunities to reflect and to see change, they're really important reminders, because sometimes I think social change is happening at a pace where it can feel hard to know whether or not we're making progress.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm going to be really curious to hear from people who have seen these changes happen and what are the things that they've noticed the most. I've heard from a lot of people that years ago we were struggling to even have people let us say the word sexual assault. If we were doing some sort of tabling event or an awareness raising event, you couldn't even say the words. And now the words sexual assault are everywhere, for better and worse, right?
Yes. So we created this SAM 25th anniversary reflection voicemail line as a way for folks to share their voices. And it's actually a number. It's a number you can call on your phone. And we know this because we did a little test call before we started recording our podcast episode, right, Mo?
We did. We should do a test call right now.
Okay.
Let me go to the page. Okay, if you go on the web page itself, it has a little blurb about like what we're doing and why, and it has prompts. So if you want to be looking back on something, it gives you options of things you can say, like the biggest change I've seen in this field over the years is, and then moving forward, the next chapter of the movement. So one of the prompts is when I think about a world without sexual violence, I feel. So you can use one of those prompts or just say whatever you want to say, but the number's right on here, so I'm going to call it. And let's just give you a sneak peek about what you'll hear when you call. Thank you for calling the SAM 25th Anniversary Reflection Line. We're so glad to hear from you. At the tone, let us know your first name, your location, and your looking back or looking forward thoughts. You can find specific prompts at nsvrc.org/SAM. We will be using these recordings in our upcoming SAM 2026 campaign. If you're not comfortable, this is so cool. Okay, I cut it off before the voicemail was all done. That's the voice of our coworker, Jen.
Yes.
She sounds really great.
It,
But I do want to let people know that the phone number will tell you this too. The voicemail will tell you that if you do leave a message, we might be using it on a future podcast or piece of social media. We definitely want to hear from you. And if you don't want your voice recorded and shared in that way, reach out to us a different way. Send us an email and let us know your reflections and thoughts because we'd really love to hear from everybody.
Yes, the number that we invite folks to call if you want to leave a voicemail is actually not our main line. It's a special number just for this project, which means that it'll go just to that message that Mo was playing. So if you're someone who has a little bit of phone anxiety, you don't have to maybe worry about someone else answering the phone. It's just going to be that recording. And that number is 717-313-6300. And as Mo said, we're hoping to collect these submissions, maybe to highlight them in a future podcast or in some content for our social media so that, again, others can be hearing the reflections and insights that our community is sharing. So if you are not interested in your reflection being shared publicly, what we're doing is inviting you to email your written reflection to resources at nsvrc-respecttogether.org. And you can ask to remain anonymous because, of course, in all things, we really value the importance of consent. So that is an option for folks too. And we haven't quite decided, I think we're all really eager to hear the submissions that we receive. We haven't quite decided exactly what it will look like to be sharing them. But we're hoping there's a way that we can compile some of the clips and kind of showcase all of the voices that participate.
Yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm hoping that people get together with their coworkers, call in together, make it really fun. It's a pretty informal option, and we just want to hear from you. We want to hear what SAM was like for you, what this field has been like for you, and what you're really hoping for the future. I think it'll be really great to hear it and to be able to share it back.
Yes, I'm excited too. And I know you said this earlier, Mo, but I'm going to give folks a reminder that if you're someone who is newer to the movement, you can still call and you can actually, even if you're newer to the movement and don't have as many years of direct experience to reflect back on, we would love to hear what your vision is for the future because it's all of us that is kind of that are working together to bring this work to life. And so we need perspectives from people who have been involved for a long time, and we need fresh and new perspectives and a next generation of voices and insights for the next chapter of the movement. So we hope whether you are someone who's been a part of that 25-year history, or if you're someone who's newer to the field, that you feel welcome to share your voice with us with this SAM 25th anniversary reflection voicemail line.
Yeah, get your voice in now so that in 25 years, you can be on the other end of this saying, hey, 25 years ago, what was I doing? Oh, yeah, I was leaving this voicemail for our analog voicemail project for Sam and sharing your perspectives.
It'll be its own little time capsule for us to
Yeah.
look back on. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today, Mo. And hopefully, again, folks will be encouraged to participate in this Share Your Voice reflection voicemail line. And I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of Resource on the Go. For more resources and information about preventing sexual assault, visit our website at www.nsvrc.org. And you can also get in touch with us by emailing resources at nsvrc-respecttogether.org.